Hey, what's going on, everybody? So, like I promised you in the last section, we're going to show you the power of saying no so that you can get that committed yes. Now, the first thing you got to know is that every negotiation starts with no. And so you want to reframe the way you think about that word, because a lot of times people think it's a negative thing and it's a bad thing when people say no because it relates to rejection. But for people who are in the negotiation machine, no is actually a good thing, and this is where the negotiation starts. Okay, so starting with no. When you get a no in a negotiation situation, it actually provides the opportunity for you and your counterpart to clarify what exactly you want by eliminating what you do not want. So no also makes your counterpart feel like they are in control of the situation because they have power to make a yes or no decision. And no also makes people feel responsible for their action, even when it is your idea. And so let me give you an example of exactly what I mean by this. So let's say this is a guy who just graduated from college and his name is Tim, and he wants to be a graphic designer. And so Sarah is going to be the hiring manager at a graphic design company. And so this is the conversation that ensues when Tim tries to get a job from Sarah. So Tim says, "Hey, I want a job as a designer here." And Sarah says, "Great. Do you have any training?" Tim says, "No," right? That's your first no. Negotiation starts here. Sarah then says, "Do you have any work experience?" Tim says, "No." Sarah says, "Do you have a portfolio of your work?" Tim says no once again. And so what's happening in this situation, although it may be something that's very common and you might have experience in your everyday life, what Sarah is doing in this example is she's using the strategy of starting negotiations with no. She, instead of saying things like, so when Tim says, "I want a job as a designer here," instead of Sarah saying yes or no immediately, she needs to see if Tim has, the right qualifications so that she can hire him. So she actually says no without saying no. So she says, "Great. Do you have any training?" Tim says no, which is a good thing because now we know Tim doesn't have training. Sarah then tries to get more information out of Tim to see if she should hire her, right? And you have to understand that Sarah's not saying no right off the bat. She's not saying, "I'm not going to hire you." She's saying, "Do you have any work experience?" Tim says no. "Do you have a portfolio?" Tim says no. So in effect, when Sarah rejects Tim and says, "Hey, you can't get a job here," we both know, Tim and Sarah both know exactly why Tim's not getting the job. It's because he just doesn't have the experience. And because she framed it in this way rather than telling Tim directly no, Tim understands that he needs to get his skills up and he needs to build his portfolio so that he can come back. At the end of the conversation, what Sarah can actually say to Tim is, "Hey, look, Tim, you seem like a very nice guy, very enthusiastic, and I love that. But it seems like you don't have any training or work experience, and frankly, you don't have a portfolio. So what you can do, Tim, is you can go back, work on a portfolio, and bring it back to me. And if it looks good, then I promise I'll give you an opportunity to see if it makes sense for us to hire you. But until then, you're gonna have to get your portfolio stronger for now." And so in that way, Sarah is saying no to Tim, but she is giving him the conditions on what it takes to come back and actually get the job. So she's not burning any bridges. She is saying no without saying no, and she is in fact negotiating, and she is persuading Tim to work on his portfolio and come back. And so this is just an example of Tim trying to get hired, but you can see that you can use this strategy in all types of situations, whether it's pricing, when you're arguing with your significant other, it really doesn't matter, but you just have to understand that no is totally fine and actually helps clarify the situation. Now, here are a couple other ways you can say no. I'll give you some examples with Tim and Sarah, but here's some other ones that you can use. You could say, "I don't understand. I'm not ready to make a decision. You're making me feel uncomfortable. I need more information. I want to talk this over with somebody else." So these are 5 different examples that you can use. Obviously, you can make up your own, but I'm just giving you some examples that you can build off of. And how do you use these is, let's say somebody says, "Hey, let's do the deal right now." And an alternative to saying no without actually saying no is, "I need more information before I can make a decision." You're not burning any bridges. You are rejecting them, and you're telling them no in a sense, but you're giving them a condition for what you need before you make a decision. And it's not even about rejecting or accepting people, it's making sure that everybody is clear on what's going on so that everybody can make the best decision possible. So now we're going to get into an advanced no technique. So how we're going to do this is, the strategy is that you are going to purposely mislabel someone's emotion and they will correct you. So for example, you can say something like, "It seems like you're upset with me. Is that right?" And the person you are talking to might say, "No, it's not that. I'm just disappointed in blah, 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 blah." So in this example, what I'm doing is I am mislabeling someone's emotions on purpose. I'm basically labeling their emotions and saying that they are upset. And they're not upset, but they are acting a certain way and you're trying to get to the bottom of it. So they will correct you and say, "No, that's not it. I'm just disappointed in blah, 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 blah." And so when you mislabel someone's emotion, they're going to naturally want to correct you. And that's how you're going to get to the bottom of how they actually feel. So that is an advanced technique of how you can say no. Try it out, practice it, see if it works for you, but also try out the other no techniques that we showed you in the beginning, because no, again, is the beginning of a negotiation.